Hello and welcome back to Read This Next with Nicole and Ruth. Today we are doing another mystery-based theme. I realized that we've done I think 3 this year. Like this is our third one, which oops, but hey,
We're
it's a
just
great
leaning into
topic.
the mysteries, and it
Yeah.
is one of the top circulating genres in libraries. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
mysteries and romance, at least
Oh,
traditionally, have been the top circling genres.
that's interesting. Huh.
Mhm.
Is that true at our libraries too?
I would have to run that stat. I
Oh yeah.
confess I
Well,
have not recently taken a look. It's just one of those things that stuck with me when reading like all the library literature is that those
mhm.
have historically been the top two.
Interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, then that's why we're covering it. This genre, it's not really a genre. It's called MySISTERies. It's about books that feature sisters somehow that are also mysteries. Because that seemed to be a recurring theme that would come up when I was researching, and also I find sibling dynamics fascinating. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but in TV shows and movies and things, people don't tend to have siblings, and it's very like
Hmm.
in my favorite shows, it's very rare to see siblings interacting, especially in teen shows, I think. But
Fair. And it's kind of interesting because you say that, and then immediately, like the first shows I can think of have siblings, and maybe it's because my brain is like,
like
we
what
will
ones?
find the siblings. Oh, I was thinking of like The Haunting of Hill House,
Oh
where it's
yeah.
like all about the siblings and their dynamics and
I
their
think
family
like
history.
family ones don't count. Like if so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
thinking like Teen Wolf, which like the focus is on like their high school experience.
Right.
So like if they're in high school, they never show siblings. It's very rare.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a family-based show, absolutely.
Yeah, I was like, as a generalization, I'm trying to think of them, and now I'm hitting everything that like there's siblings and sibling dynamics. Although, like, my sister and I loved Gilmore Girls,
Mm,
where there are no siblings really
yeah.
in any of them. In any of the key characters, there's not really a lot of sibling dynamics. So that's kind of an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, I've noticed that a fair amount, especially considering I don't know about you, but in my life, pretty much everybody I know has a sibling except a few only children. So
Yep.
it's weird to me that when you're looking at media, so many people don't have siblings. I think it's
True. And
just
I mean,
easier.
it probably is. I mean, it takes away like a whole dynamic and plot point that you have to deal with. But I mean, we talk about our sisters, so
Mm-hmm.
got
How
to give my
much
brother some
they're
playtime too.
okay. So let's get into it. Did we say yeah, you're going to be the yellow
I'm
highlight
gonna lead
today.
off with The Missing Years by Lexi Elliott. And we always like to talk about the covers. I really like this one. I like the sort of like misty, foggy look, but like
Mm-hmm.
the vegetation at the front is still like really lush and green.
Mm-hmm.
Isla Calder has inherited half of a house. The other half belongs to a man who disappeared without a trace 27 years ago, her father. Leaving London behind to settle the inheritance from her mother's estate, Isla returns to her childhood home, nestled amongst the craggy peaks of the Scottish Highlands, joined by the half-sister who's almost a stranger to her. Isla can't escape the claustrophobic feeling that the house itself is watching her, as if her past hungers to consume her. She also can't ignore how the neighborhood animals refuse to set one foot within the gates of the garden. When the first nighttime intruder shows up, Isla fears the manor's careless, rugged beauty could cost her everything.
Yikes.
So very like heavily atmospheric.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in knowing the dynamic with the half sister,
Mm-hmm.
because really she's only mentioned as someone who's almost a stranger as opposed to like what her role might be. Is she the father's daughter, the mother's? Like, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah. And also, how do you inherit half a house with someone who doesn't exist?
Yeah, I feel like he would have been declared dead and that just would have entirely gone to her.
Yeah, what's going on?
Or maybe the half sister is the father's daughter, and but then wouldn't Isla have gotten three quarters? It's very complicated. You know what?
Very.
We're just gonna have to read the book
I
and then we'll
will
find out.
say this is my worst nightmare. is being in the bush, or like the craggy peaks of the Scottish Highlands, just like away from society, and then people showing up at my house in the dark of the night. That's terrifying.
Is the intruder a person or is it an animal? Like the neighborhood animals won't set foot, but we
You know
don't know
what?
what these
Good point.
intruders,
Good point. Could
just
also
like
be paranormal. This
a
is
lot of
this
questions, a
a
lot of questions.
lot. Okay, this next one, I've seen it on a lot of lists, so I think it's not necessarily a like normally we try and pick books that aren't going to be recommended by other people, but this one I've seen it everywhere and it captured my attention.
And like
Uh
really highly reviewed,
oh
like really
yeah.
well reviewed.
Yeah. This is My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. Um okay, so when Coreed's dinner is interrupted one night by a distress call from her sister Ayula, she knows what's expected of her: bleach, rubber gloves, nerves of steel, and a strong stomach. This will be the third boyfriend Ayula's dispatched in, quote, self defense, and the third mess that her lethal little sibling has left Coreed to clear away. She should probably go to the police for the good of the menfolk of Nigeria, but she loves her sister, and as they say, family always comes first. Until that is, Ayula starts dating the doctor where Coreed works as a nurse. Coreed's long been in love with him and isn't prepared to see him wind up with a knife in his back, but to save one would mean sacrificing the other. And then it says Blackley comic novel about how blood is thicker and more difficult to get out of the carpet than water, which is very cute.
And very true.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
At least
Very
about the carpet.
yes. Very interesting. I don't know how, like, I think on the second time I would have been like, you have a problem and I'm
Yeah.
gonna, like at what point do you draw the line?
Like when do you do the intervention?
Yeah. Yeah, when do you go to the police? Because the third time now and potentially fourth coming up,
Yeah.
not a chance. Sorry,
Yeah.
Julie.
Just not going there for you.
Yeah, no, apparently she gets one. No, not one. Yeah, so was this the one, because you were saying before we started filming that one of them was on your list? Was it this one?
Yeah, it was. And I actually borrowed it from the library. And then I had too high a to read list. I've also, I think I mentioned to you before, it would be really fun one day to do a list of books by Nigerian authors. So
Mm.
this was also on my radar for that kind of a list.
I'll have to get that one started because we need a few more lists for
I do have a
the
few
year.
books already for you. So I will send them to
Fabulous.
you and everyone stay tuned. It might
Yeah.
not just be Nigerian. We might do like a nice African authors and authors in the diaspora.
Yeah.
Um, because there's some really great ones.
I can't
Um,
wait.
and interesting, like some really great Nigerian science fiction to lean into.
I'm curious if we've covered any of them. That'll be interesting to see because so many times we start up a genre, like we start up the list, and I'm like, oh, this one would be perfect for it. And then I look and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
we covered it.
Well, it's interesting because, and I think that's something that comes up a lot when we talk about fiction, is that where in the past you'd be like, there's, you know, mystery, romance, science fiction, fantasy, westerns, and then general fiction,
Hmm.
basically, right? And now there's so much interplay between them. And then when you bring in um like the whole scope of authors,
Hmm.
and that, so you've got different elements and different lenses that we're looking at the books through. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to really break down the genres and
Yeah.
see where things fall. I like that. Let's move on to the next one, which
Oh,
also has a very funky cover.
it has a very beautiful cover. I love the flowers.
Yeah, me too.
Um, Curious about the person's face behind, actually, and there's two
Hmm.
faces. So this is Speaking of Summer by Kalisha Buchanan. Um, on a cold December evening, Autumn Spencer's twin sister Summer. Ooh, I wonder if they have a spring and winter in their family as well. Anyway, sorry.
Mm.
Summer walks to the roof of their shared Harlem brownstone and is never seen again. The door to the roof is locked and no footsteps are found. Faced with authorities indifferent to another missing woman, Autumn must pursue answers on her own, all while grieving her mother's recent death. With her friends and neighbors, Autumn pretends to hold up through the crisis. She falls into an affair with Summer's boyfriend to cope with the disappearance of a woman they both loved. But the loss becomes too great, the mystery too inexplicable, and Autumn starts to unravel, all the while becoming obsessed with murdered women and the men who kill them. In Speaking of Summer, critically acclaimed author Kalisha Buchanan has created a postmodern, fast-paced story of urban peril and victim invisibility and the fight to discover truth at any cost.
Interesting.
Oh, and there's a little blurb, little extra information that Autumn and Summer are twin sisters.
Oh yeah, it said that at the
Sort of,
beginning.
yep.
Yeah.
I might have glossed over it when I got caught up in the seasons and if there's
Mm.
any other seasons in the family. But yeah, so
Very interesting.
and I
I'm curious if it'll touch on the growing crime kind of crime junkie
mm,
genre that people are
that's
interested
not
in.
actually true crime. It's fictionalized, but ties in closely with what's happening in the
Yeah.
world as it is.
Yeah, that and the real stuff too. Like it
Yeah,
sounds like it says that they're becoming obsessed with murdered women and the men who kill them. I wonder if it'll touch on that, but
yeah,
sounds a lot going on. Sounds good.
absolutely. Definitely interesting cover
Hmm.
and oh, a lot to check out. I also always wonder with twin ones if there's like a switch in identity. I'm not going to lie.
Yes,
That always seems to come up with twin books. So I'm very curious about if there are any elements of that in this one.
some trickery.
Mm-hmm.
This next one is also a very well-rated author. They also wrote what did that say? They Were Us. They Laura and I one time were talking about a book
Oh, they
that
wish they were us.
oh, They Wish They Were Us. Is that
Yeah.
mm, oh yeah, I missed half of it. I just made the image bigger and now I can see it. We were talking about a different this was forever ago, and I was like, isn't there a book that has a shoe and blood on it? And we figured out it was this book. But anyways, I'll tell you all about it. This is They'll Never Catch Us by Jessica Goodman. Stella and Ellie Steckler are only a year apart, but their different personalities make their relationship complicated. Stella is single minded, driven, and keeps to herself. Cross country running is her life, and she won't let anything get in the way of being her best. Her sister Ellie is a talented runner too, but she also lets herself have fun. She has friends, she goes to parties, she has a life off of the course. The sisters do have one thing in common, though: the new girl, Mila Keene. Both Steckler's lives are upended when Mila comes to town. Mila was the top runner on her team back home, and at first, Ellie and Stella view her as a threat. But soon, Ellie can't help but be drawn to her warm, charming personality. After her best friend moved away and her first boyfriend betrayed her, Ellie's been looking for a friend. In a moment of weakness, she even shares her darkest secret with Mila. What could that be?
Mm,
For her part, Stella finds herself noticing the ways she and Mila are similar. Mila is smart and strong. She's someone Stella can finally connect with. As the two get closer, Stella becomes something she vowed she'd never be: distracted. With regionals approaching and college scouts taking notice, the pressure is on. Each girl has their future on the line and they won't let friendships get in their way. Then suddenly, Mila, probably, I keep saying Mila, goes out on a training run and never returns. No one knows what happened, but all eyes are on the Steckler sisters. This one looks
intense.
like, so the other ones were all kind of vaguely with um sibling dynamics. This one's gonna be heavy on the sibling dynamics, which is
No
cool.
kidding. Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Now
it's
the
interesting too, because like most of them have been, we've been looking really at adult dynamics. Like these are grown up, basically,
Yep.
siblings who are inheriting houses, dealing with crimes, searching for someone who may have become victim to a crime because we really don't know what's happened to Summer, right?
Hmm.
But this is um
High schoolers.
high schoolers, but like pretty dark.
Yeah, I think Jessica Goodman writes pretty dark mysteries. There definitely seems to be a genre, at least that I've noticed in the YA area, where I think mysteries are becoming more popular. Maybe it's because they just have better covers now, but
Maybe.
I think there's something, I feel like there's more mysteries than when I was reading as a teen. I feel like they're coming up more and more. But the cover makes sense now.
Yeah, it totally does. And I mean, I think there were a lot of mysteries when I was a teen, but we're from two different generations of teen.
Mhm.
So I think there'd been like a switch to,
Fantasy, I would say,
yeah.
and
And
dystopians when I was a
I was
teen.
going to say for you, it was probably like the dystopian, like,
Like sci-fi fantasy.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
that was
And
huge.
then some of the issues books,
Yeah. Yeah, those were
right?
getting popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, everything goes in a circle, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I just feel like it was like romance mystery stuff when I was in high school, like you think about, or like early teen, like the Christopher Pikes and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Hardy Boys has been out forever.
Oh
Was
yeah.
that when you were a kid? Was that popular?
Hardy Boys was like before, like, and they're more
I
kid
thought
than
so.
YA.
Yeah, they
Like,
fall in an interesting area.
yeah. Because in like
Yeah.
Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys were definitely books that we read, but I would say those were sort of like more tween
Mm-hmm.
than teen.
Juvenile fiction.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So as we've gone on, our next one is White Fox. I do really like this cover.
Mm-hmm.
It's very like, now I'm like, is this gonna be another twin one? Or is it just like an interesting mirroring?
It definitely
Um,
implies it.
yeah, so we've got two women. It looks like they're running in opposite directions. Could be in a night dress. Like it's very, could be a dress, could be a nightgown.
Mm-hmm.
And then this like really gorgeous greenery in the background. So this is White Fox by Sarah Faring. After their world famous actor mother disappeared under mysterious circumstances, Manon and Thais left their remote Mediterranean island home, sent away by their pharma tech tycoon father.
Okay.
Opposites in every way, the sisters drifted apart in their grief. Yet their mother's unfinished story still haunts them both, and they can't put to rest the possibility that she is still alive. We've got a few mysterious disappearances in this. At
Mm-hmm.
least this is the third,
I
I
think
think.
so. Yeah.
No, fourth. Because yeah, a lot of mysterious disappearances. Lured home a decade later, Manon and Thais discover their mother's legendary last work, long thought lost, White Fox, a screenplay filled with enigmatic metaphors. The clues in this dark fairy tale draw them deep into the island's surreal society, into the twisted secrets hidden by their glittering family, to reveal the truth about their mother and themselves.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. It sounds good. I believe this one's a YA as well. Um, just based off the age of the characters alone. But yeah,
It
I'm
is really interesting too with these whole mysteries that like they are almost all with missing people or
mm-hmm.
disappearing under mysterious circumstances. Looking back through what we've talked about already, My Sister the Serial Killer is the only one where there's not someone who's mysteriously disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
I'm
mean, it is
curious
a
for the
good
next
trope in
one.
mysteries, right? Like it's a solid one. All right, well then you get us into the next one.
Okay, Girl Waits with a Gun, which is by Amy Stewart, and this is the first in a series. Okay, Constance Kopp doesn't quite fit the mold. She towers over most men, she has no interest in marriage or domestic affairs, and has been isolated from the world since a family secret sent her and her sisters into hiding 15 years ago. One day, a belligerent and powerful silk factory owner runs down their buggy, and a dispute over damages turns into a war of bricks, bullets, and threats as he unleashes his gang on their family. When the sheriff enlists her help in convicting the men, Constance is forced to confront her past and defend her family, and she does it in a way that few women of 1914 would have dared. Uh, Obviously, 1914, the cover is the same idea. It definitely tells you that it's not a current book.
Mm-hmm.
And I also imagine, I can't confirm, but the series is called Cop Sisters, like their last name, Kopp. I imagine each one would feature a different sister, so it might be over the entire series you see their
Yeah.
dynamics together.
And it's interesting too, like they must have been a really exceptional family, seeing the note that you added that it's based on the forgotten true story of one of the nation's first female deputy sheriffs.
Oh, I didn't add that note. That was just from Goodreads. But yeah, I didn't. That's cool.
So and now I'm interested in like what the other sisters may have been up to and what,
Yeah.
obviously this was sort of a really pivotal moment in their lives when the silk factory owner runs their buggy down.
I just like the word buggy. I like
Horse
it.
and buggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an
And
interesting one and like a really um I like the cover, like just the use of the three colors of the sort of off-white, black, and red. It's
mhm.
very um it's a really sharp visual.
Mhm. Yeah. And it looks like we've got one more and then I'll wrap it up for us.
Okay, so I will get us into Death at High Tide. This also is the beginning of a series, The Island Sisters Mystery. It's by Hannah Dennison. When Evie Mead's husband, Robert, suddenly drops dead of a heart attack, a mysterious note is found among his possessions. It indicates that Evie may own the rights to an old hotel on Tregorick Rock, one of the Isles of Scilly. Still grieving, Evie is inclined to leave the matter to the accountant to sort out. Her sister Margot, however, flown in from her glamorous career in LA, has other plans. I love these like bits of glamour that come in. Envisioning a luxurious weekend getaway, she goes right ahead and buys 2 tickets, one way to Tregarrick. Once at the hotel, used in its heyday to house detective novelists and more fixer-upper than spa resort after all, Evie and Margot attempt to get to the bottom of things. But the foul-tempered hotel owner claims he's never met the late Robert, and even after Evie finds framed photos of them alongside Robert's first wife in his office. Wow. Don't know
Hmm.
you, but I have a picture?
Maybe he goes by a pseudonym, different name.
Maybe. The rest of the island inhabitants, ranging from an ex-con receptionist to a vicar who communicates with cats, aren't any easier to read. This
Okay,
sounds like it
I'm
has some
in.
like fun quirkiness, yeah.
Yeah.
But when a murder occurs at the hotel and then another soon follows, frustration turns to desperation. There's no getting off the island at high tide, and Evie and Margot, the only current visitors to Tregarrick, are suspects 1 and 2. It falls to them
Ooh.
to unravel secrets spanning generations and several of their own if they want to make it back alive. Okay, wait.
Ooh.
If you're suspected of murder, like, is it automatically death sentence here?
I guess. Is that what they're
Or there's something
suggesting?
more going on? Well, I don't know.
Or maybe the real killer is targeting them kind of thing.
Right? Hard to say.
This screams, I think, based off the description that when high tide is there, they can't get out. Closed circle mystery. And
Yes.
also a little bit cozy because there's a cat on the cover. Come on.
And a vicar who communicates with them.
Yeah, what does that even mean? I love it.
Don't know. We'll find out. Yeah, and it is a really interesting cover because it looks like, water on both sides, but then like stairs up to what is presumably the hotel
Yeah, I think
and a
that's
gate.
where the tide would cover, like
Yeah.
that path in between the hotel and the cat. But yeah, it
Intriguing.
sounds kind of cute and just fun, which is yeah, a lot of these are more serious and mysterious, whereas this one
Mhm.
is serious, mysterious, and silly.
Yeah, and no one has actually like disappeared. We
Yeah,
know that either you've had a heart attack or you've been murdered. Like there's
two
no just
options
so far.
so
I'm
far. Yeah.
they may offer more. We'll see.
Well, with that all being said, unless you have anything else to add,
I
I'll
think
wrap
we're
us up.
good.
Okay.
Lovely.
Then thank you everybody for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And we're at TBAPL across the board on all socials. And you can get our show notes at www.tbplofftheshelf.com. And yeah, we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.